Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ephraim225 and I'm here with yet another Mega Man playthrough. Are you getting tired of this formula yet? Are you getting tired of fighting 8 robot masters, going through a castle only to find that the villain was not who we expected, and then going through another castle before the game ends? Well, I'm sure not. Yes, 6 NES Mega Man titles, that's quite a lot. Most other series don't even top like 3 or 4. Anyways, the plot for this one is that the mysterious Mr. X has held the first ever international robot design contest, but it seems Mr. X was using the robot designers to build his army for him, and now he's going to try and take over the world with all the robots he stole. By the way, does Mr. X look familiar at all? Does he seem similar to another villain? Ah, well, it's probably not important. First up is Wind Man, who was the first robot master in this playthrough to be designed by someone outside of Japan. As I stated in the previous playthrough, this is the first Mega Man game to feature robot masters designed from people all around the world, but it's really just 2 out of 6. But hey, Wind Man and Night Man are the robot masters to come from outside of Japan, and that's pretty awesome, so they're cool. And another really awesome thing about Mega Man 6 is that each stage is designed after the country that the Robot Master supposedly originated from. So for Wind Man, that's China, and I can tell because there are a lot of pandas, a very famous animal to come from China, and there are a lot of bottomless pits. We all know China is one big bottomless pit, am I right? China is the best place in the world. We should all move there, and it was totally not the origin point of the Sigma virus. Please don't defund this video. Wait, I'm not even making money off these videos. What am I saying? Anyways, Mega Man 6 does a couple of new things compared to Mega Man 5, which is great. Anything to make the games refreshing is welcome in my book. But unfortunately, Mega Man 6 has a very low difficulty level. I have no idea how this happened, but it just feels like such an easy game to play through, and that's due to a lot of free E-Tanks. We're going back to Mega Man 3 levels of free E-Tanks here, and that's pretty crazy. But still, it's a lot of fun, it's put together very well, it's the culmination of all of the refinements to Mega Man that we've seen. Even the weapons in this game are a lot more useful compared to Mega Man 5, but still not at the Mega Man 4 level of cool, awesome, fun-to-use weapons, which is why 4 will always be my favorite out of the first 6. Anyways, I just noticed something. Pandas with rockets attached to them? Have I seen that in another Mega Man game? Anyways, I just rambled throughout the entire stage, and I haven't even gotten to talk about anything interesting in them. So, Wind Man himself. Not a very difficult boss. In fact, the bosses are still kind of like at that Mega Man 5 level of very easy to defeat. But, yeah, this projectile attack from him is really the only thing that has a chance of hitting you. Otherwise, he's just going to play like Dust Man, where he tries to suck you towards him. And that's very easy to deal with. You just slide away from him, slide under him when he goes over you. And oh, I ended this fight with only one little pellet of health left. That was very risky. I thought for sure I could do it without any damage, but he denied me that at the end. The weapon you get from Wind Man is called the Wind Storm. It fires a small little tornado that, if it hits certain enemies, I think if it kills certain enemies, it sends them flying into the sky, which means they don't drop any items. But it can still be useful. It gets rid of the small fries really easily. Very good to use on Metors because I'm pretty sure that it gets past their invulnerability. Anyways, we're moving on to Fling Man Stage, based on Fling Man's turban and the excessive amounts of oil and sand in the stage. It's pretty easy to deduce that this stage is based on the Middle East in some fashion. I really like the stage design as far as this whole country theme goes because they get really detailed with some of the stages. It's really awesome. So the deal with all of that oil is that if certain fire attacks hit it, it will set the entire oil spill ablaze, which is not good because that fire will kill you in one hit. And naturally they're going to make us platform over some potentially dangerous pits here. Yeah, and this is also a really... This is also, in my opinion, a really good example of, like, basic game design, because they're introducing a new enemy that you can only hit with a charge shot, and they also introduced that you must use it as a platform to get over the oil pits. And here we go. It's all fire now, so you gotta be very careful to not slip and fall. Not that difficult to avoid. Also, I'm not 100% certain of this, but I believe that if you die, the fire stays there. It doesn't go back to being oil. So yeah, if you let the oil get set ablaze, it's there to stay. Pretty interesting. Alright, so moving on. This fire's already been set ablaze, so there's nothing we can do about that. And we have more enemies that are capable of setting the oil on fire. And here we have our first basically free E-Tank. I'm not really sure if there's much risk to getting that E-Tank besides getting hit by one of the traps. Alright, so moving on, I'm not going to be able to prevent these guys from setting the oil on fire. If I'd killed that guy fast enough, I might have been able to do that. But hey, we're up to the boss anyways. That stage gimmick didn't really have a lot of chances to get used, unfortunately. So moving on to Fling Man himself. Fling Man's got a couple of basic moves. The only real danger is if he decides to use the fire tower attack, where he causes a bunch of towers of flames to rise up from the ground, and if you're not standing at the correct distance from him, you're not going to be able to avoid it, because it's very difficult to see coming. Fortunately, he decided to not use it at all in this battle, like at least up until the very end. Yeah, that's the one time he used it. That's very, very annoying to not have him use any of his difficult attacks. I think he could have been more difficult than that if he'd used it more often, but I don't know. Maybe I just got lucky. I'm not sure how much of the bosses are RNG in this game. So the weapon we get from him is the Flame Blast. It is the only decent weapon in the game, really. It's got a lot of attack power, and it has some neat uses as well, which we'll see in the next stage. And we also got the Rush Power Adapter, which I'm pretty sure I will demonstrate in the next stage. The adapters this time are a very different beast from what they were in the previous games, because now Rush has the ability to combine himself with Mega Man, which is a really cool concept, and they bring it back for 7 as well, but not 8 or 9, unfortunately. So, Blizzard Man is up next. I was a little, I had a little bit of difficulty figuring out what country this stage is based on, because there are only 2 really cold places I know in the world. One being Russia, the other being Canada, and based on one enemy that appears a little bit later, I'm inclined to think that it's Canada they're basing the stage on. But if it was Canada they were basing the stage on, they went with snow and ice instead of maple leaves. Ah, yes. Expect a lot of offensive remarks in this video. Or maybe not that offensive, I don't know. So this is the power adapter. As you can see, it gives Mega Man some very big fists, which allow him to break certain blocks, and those blocks can have items in them. This is basically what Guts Man wishes he could do. And, I think it takes less time to charge this up than the Buster, I'm not sure, but the range on that punch is very, very low, and this is Flame Blast, by the way. It can melt through ice in this stage, and it kills these enemies in one hit. Those enemies, I think they're supposed to be hockey pucks, but they kind of look like curling stones as well, so I'm not really sure what they were going for. And you can see that I got a free 1-up there. We're going back to Mega Man 5 with the 1-ups, apparently. So, the only unfortunate downside to the power adapter and the jet adapter as well is that they do not let you slide, so you have to switch off of them in order to slide. And another annoying thing is that you have to wait for, well, unless you like mash the button, you have to kind of wait for the little animation to play before you can get back to the game, which is annoying to me because I don't always mash in time, and I kind of want to save some time here. I want to get through this quickly. Alright, so we have an E-Tank that is actually a bit of a challenge to get. You have to punch out the block, and then slide, and then hope the game doesn't do something weird with the collision detection, because this is a moving level obstacle, and those can be a little bit difficult to deal with, because the game might think you're smudged into the wall or something, and then just push you a certain distance away. Anyways, we got that E-Tank, we're moving on. I have no idea what exploding bomb platforms have to do with ice and stuff, but hey, there's a Kraken robot, so that doesn't make too much sense either. We'll just flame our way past him. Flame Blast is definitely the weapon I use the most often in this playthrough, and it's Blizzard Man's weakness, but again, I am using the Buster only for the first round with these guys, and then during the refights, because we know those are going to happen, I will use the weakness weapons there. Well, actually, I use one weapon other than the Buster against one of the bosses the first time down, so that'll be interesting to look at. Alright, Blizzard Man. He is not that difficult either. When he uses the Blizzard attack, which is those snowflakes, they are all aimed at you, so you just have to weave in and out of them, and they're very easy to avoid. And then when he starts doing the rolling attack, you just have to jump over him, and then get to the center of the screen. You don't want to be between him and the wall. That is a very bad place to be, because he will initiate the rolling attack and you will not have much space to dodge. Alright, so he was very easy to deal with. From him we get the Blizzard attack, which is that snowflake attack he was using. Unfortunately, in our hands, it's not that good. It has a very low ammo count, and it goes in very specific directions. You kind of have to know where it's usable in order to make good use of it. So, yeah, it's a Mega Man 5 weapon, basically. But I want to point out also that this weapon get screen finally demonstrates what the weapons actually do without you having to try them out yourself. Which I think is pretty cool, but I don't mind trying them out myself either. Next up is the Flower Fancier Plant Man. Flower Fancier. I don't know if that changes in the English version, but it's kind of funny either way. And that's not the only funny part. That's not the only funny boss title either, or area title even. Alright, so what stage would Plant Man be based on? Or what country would this stage be based on, I mean? I'm kind of getting a Brazil vibe, but I'm not really sure. I mean, that's just going off the fact that it's a jungle with a bunch of flowers and literally everything trying to kill you. Oh well. You know, technically the first stage in Mega Man to be based on a particular country is Napalm Man, but we don't talk about that one apparently. Hey, speaking of which, I've heard that this game actually didn't get released in Europe for quite a while. Oh well, moving on to the mini-boss. It's a gorilla bot. You just hit it with a bunch of flame blasts. Flame blast is so powerful. It's crazy. And coming up here we have an interesting little obstacle. Springs! Plant Man and Springs. Not really sure what the theme here was, but you can see what they're going to go for here. They are going to go for putting spikes above you and putting a bunch of difficult boss platforming challenges. And this mini-boss, he's not any different than the previous time we fought him, so I don't really know why they make you fight him the same way twice. Well, actually, he had a new attack, so I guess that was okay. And in this area, you have the fish popping out of the ground. Yet again, we have one of those annoying enemies that pops out of the ground to kill you by surprise. And we have these little platforms, I guess they're flowers or something. When you shoot them, they open up to create platforms. You can actually land on the platforms before they've opened up if you are pixel perfect, but I don't do that. And we have little energy pellets serving as the, what do you call it, the stem of the flower? Yeah, that's what it's called. That's a really neat detail. I like this stage a lot. Except for the fish, those are the worst part. The springs, however, those are just so fun, and they even have enemies bouncing on the springs too. That's really creative. If you've heard of Mega Man Maker, the springs are actually fun to have interact with other enemies, and even bosses in Mega Man Maker can interact with the springs, but they can't do that in this game. Like, they wouldn't put springs in Plant Man's room, would they? Alright, Plant Man has a very basic, very rigid pattern. He will jump and then fire the plant barrier, walk a little bit, jump, fire the plant barrier, again and again. Due to the plant barrier blocking your shots, this is actually one of the longest boss battles in the game, and I don't really like it that much. I mean, I've just never been a fan of boss battles that take a long time, and this one takes the longest out of the first 8. Or, I guess Nightman would take a lot longer, but whatever, we'll get to that when we get to it. I don't even fight Nightman normally, so that's the boss I'm not going to fight normally. Alright, so Plant Man is defeated. For this fight, we get the Plant Barrier, which is unfortunately one of the worst shield weapons in the entire game, like even worse than Skull Barrier. And that's because it has a seriously low ammo count, even lower than Skull Barrier. You can fire it like Star Crash, but it still doesn't really do a whole lot for you. Like, I think Jewel Satellite from Mega Man 9 was probably like the what would you call it? It's what all shield weapons aspire to. Okay. Moving on to Tomahawk Man, who is very obviously based on a Native American, so this is obviously the American stage, and it's got robot cowboys in a desert. Wow, you literally could not make a game like this in 2020. Do you have any idea how controversial it would be? Oh man. So, we also got another rush adapter from Fling Man called the Jet Adapter, and I'm probably going to use it in this stage a little bit. Probably after this very easily destroyed mini-boss. The Mentor Dispenser was kind of fun, but yeah, it didn't last very long because Flame Blast is just so crazy. Alright, so what the Jet Adapter does, it is not like the Rush Jet from the previous game. It is... Oh, thanks for the 1-up, Eddie. I really needed that. Alright, so I'm going to demonstrate it on this screen. By the way, I love the sunset. That's like the only part of the stage with a sunset. It's awesome. And we're going to fly off into the sunset because the Jet Adapter is now a jetpack. And you can fly for as long as that energy meter says you can. And the adapters in this game don't even have like limited amounts of energy. They actually regenerate over time, which is really awesome. And you can fly over long gaps like this. I would say that the Jet Adapter is actually, like, really overpowered because of how many things you can fly over, how much you can skip, how many energy tanks you can find. Like that one I just found. A little bit of a reward for coming in here with the Jet Adapter, but I think there should have been, like, an enemy or something on that screen because it's really easy to get through there with just the Jet Adapter, as long as you know how to use it. And we have another repeated boss fight. That was very easy to do, only 3 flame blasts, jeez. And here we have an alternate path. Now, about Tomahawk Man Stage and the remaining stages, they all have alternate paths that lead to the parts that you need to assemble Beat. You need to find the hidden parts to assemble Beat again, but we're not going to get that because in Tomahawk Man Stage, if you get the Beat parts, you actually miss out on this little secret here. You blow up that block with a power adapter and you find... Hey look, it's Proto Man, and he's got a little gift for us. This is the energy... What is it called? The energy saver? The energy converter? I don't know. But what it does is that it, when you pick up a weapon energy capsule, and you do not have a weapon equipped, the energy converter will automatically give that weapon energy to whatever weapon you've got that has the least amount of remaining ammo. You no longer have to switch to the weapon you want to refill in order to refill it. You can just have the energy converter do it for you. And that's really awesome because I've run into so many weapon energy capsules accidentally with an adapter equipped, which don't take energy anymore. So here we are fighting Tomahawk Man. He's actually really easy too. He's only got 2 real attacks, which is to send 3 feathers at you and to throw his tomahawk at you. A tomahawk is a type of axe, in case you were wondering. But for both attacks, you can literally just stand next to him. I should have stayed in that corner, actually, because maybe he would have jumped at me, but like I could have just jumped over the attacks as they came out. They're very easy to avoid. Easier to avoid than I make it look, because I still took a bunch of hits. For defeating him, we get the Silver Tomahawk, which sends a flying tomahawk in a bit of an arc. It goes up towards enemies, kind of like the air shooter from Mega Man 2, but there's only one of it, and it has a much better ammo count. Not the best weapon in the world, because you still kind of have to know where to place it in order to make it usable, and sometimes it goes farther than I would have liked, but hey. It's a decent weapon overall. I'll use it a couple of times. Next up is Centaur Man, whose ability is completely unknown. I have no idea what country the stage is based on. Like, when you start, it has water and pelicans and bombs, but centaurs are a Greek thing, right? So maybe this is Greece or something, but then what's with all the water? Or is it like Atlantis? I don't think that's a Greek thing, though. Oh well. We have a water stage, and unfortunately we have no Rush Marine adapter yet again. But I suppose with the way the adapters work now, you couldn't really do that. But hey, we've got more spikes in water levels. I have no idea why those go together. Maybe the spikes are there to pop bubbles or something, but then why would they be in Bubble Man stage? I don't know. I don't know what I'm rambling off about, but I should point out that the jet adapter behaves very strangely underwater. It will not start working until you are at the height of your jump underwater. So if you hold down the A button for a long time, it could get very interesting. And here we have water on the ceiling that is moving up and down. That's a very unique idea, but unfortunately they never use it again in the whole series, which is very unfortunate. So the idea is that you have to jump when the water is at its lowest to get the most height out of your jump, which is really interesting. Of course, I just use the jet adapter. There are a ton of traps and obstacles and stuff that the jet adapter just defeats. Like, it's insane how much you can bypass with the jet adapter. And that was an E-Tank from Eddie. Wow. Eddie is behaving very nicely. He's giving me 1-ups, he's giving me E-Tanks, he's giving me exactly what I want. And now we have yellow submarines. Yeah, I really don't know what was going on with this stage, but hey, let's just keep moving on, alright? So, I'm gonna talk about Beat for a little bit. I've actually never used Beat in Mega Man 6. Well, I might have at some point in my life, but definitely not in these recent playthroughs that I did for practice. I just don't see the appeal of Beat this time around, because you have to go through those 4 alternate paths in the stages, and I'm actually going to go through an alternate path here. The Beat parts are through the door across the big gap. Otherwise, you have to fall down and go through the boss doors down there instead. And if you want to get the Beat parts and the energy converter, then you actually have to repeat Tomahawk Man Stage. I was never interested in that. Alright, so Centaur Man. Centaur Man has the weapon that freezes Mega Man this time around, and I have no idea how to stop him from doing it. I think you just have to hit him the instant he appears to stop him from using it, but I've never really figured out what the exact timing for that is. So yeah, not really a great boss. There's no real way to avoid that bullet if he actually uses the Centaur Flash, which is what the weapon is called. But as long as you let off a charge shot on him, I think you will be able to outpace his damage, and as long as you jump over him as well. They actually gave him a very different weapon in the arcade version of this fight, because there are a couple of arcade Mega Man games where they change up the boss patterns a little bit from what they were originally. And I think I like Centaur Man's weapon there better than the Centaur Flash, which is the weapon we just got. It is a screen-clearing weapon, and it does a lot more damage than Gravity Hold, I will give it that, but the ammo is still leaves a lot to be desired, and it also stops you for a brief moment when you fire it, which, that's okay, I guess. Either way, moving on to Yamato Man Stage. Oh yeah, I wonder what country this stage is based on. You've got Yamato Man, who looks like a shogun. You've got Mount Fuji in the background. You've got traditional Japanese houses from years and years ago. And you've got robot tanukis that drop their balls. I can't believe I just said that, but I did. Alright, so there's another alternate path in this stage, in addition to the one that gets you the Beat parts. If you've got the power adapter, you can go through a very different part of the stage and take sort of a shortcut. I think this path is shorter. So that's very nice. I like seeing all of these alternate paths and everything. They're really expanding what they can do with the stages based on what weapons and what adapters you've picked up. And then we have a giant robot frog. Something something ninjas, something something frogs. It's interesting, I guess. I like frogs. And for defeating that guy, we get another E-Tank behind a power adapter block, but you can only get here with the power adapter, so I don't really see what putting another block there was for. And here is where the two paths are going to converge. We're just going to slide our way through here because there's no enemies on this screen! Why aren't there enemies on this screen? And this screen! There's just the one Tanuki bot, the two Tanuki bots. Okay. I guess you could backtrack to where the, energy tank was if you wanted. Oh wait, actually this is another alternate path. Like, we need, do we need any more alternate paths in the stage? So while I play through the last part of the level, I would like to point out something interesting about Yamato Man. I'm not exactly sure what a Yamato is. I think it's the Japanese word for spear, but I could be wrong. But the weird thing is, in the Battle Network series, they actually renamed Yamato Man to, and I kid you not, Japan Man. Really. I know that Yamato was too many letters for them to fit, because for some reason all the names in Battle Network have to be 8 letters long, but they could have gone with Spearman or something even better than that, I don't know. Anywho, Japan Man, Yamato Man, whatever you want to call him, he is not a super difficult boss. I think the hardest attack to dodge from him is when he jumps into the air and fires those 3 projectiles at you. Kind of have to stand where they're not going to go in order to avoid getting hit. His other attack is to fire a single spear at you, which he then has to pick up for some reason. Like, jeez. Anyhow, you should also be able to outpace this guy's damage. I haven't mentioned it yet, but I think the Buster works exactly like it does in Mega Man 5, except you can now charge while sliding, which is a huge help. Definitely a nice balance between Mega Man 4 and Mega Man 5 style of Buster play. Anyway, for that battle, we have earned the Yamato Spear. I guess it's called the Spear in English. Spear. It is basically the needle cannon from Mega Man 3. Fires in a random height, and you can't really rapid fire it, but it's kind of okay. I just never really use it except against bosses that are weak to it, such as Nightman, who resides in the capital of science? Okay. Based on the castle theme of the stage, and the fact that we're fighting a knight, that makes me think this stage is based on the UK, but capital of science? The UK is known for a lot of things, but science I don't think would be one of the particular things they're known for if we're talking like entire countries. Anyway, this trap is annoying to get through. That jump over the spike pit is very specific. You have to get just the right height to clear the gap and not impale yourself on the spikes. And I should also point out that Nightman is the second of the 2 bosses in this game to be designed by somebody outside of Japan. So, that's interesting. And you can see that the Centaur Flash took out that enemy in 1 hit and got me a free 1-up yet again. All these free 1-ups. It's really Mega Man 5 all over again. I'm gonna end up with so many lives. Ah yeah, you can make this room a little bit shorter if you've got the jet adapter, so that's very nice. Always use your utilities to make things easier for yourself, even when they've got infinite energy, I guess. This enemy can be a little bit difficult to deal with. You have to shoot at him once to get the head to appear, which is the weak point. And it appears that charged shots do not make the head appear, although I could be wrong. Yeah, I am wrong, actually, because that enemy just proved me wrong. And Eddie is going to gift us with weapon energy for something. It was probably one of the things I'd been using. What did I even use in this stage? Oh well. And we have a very bizarre looking enemy that you have to shoot twice, and a free E-Tank as long as you have the jet adapter. Okay, this is getting a little bit crazy. All these free E-Tanks so long as you know how to get them. I mean, I think you should have to risk your life for an E-Tank. They're so valuable. That's just me, really. So in this section, we have bouncing blocks, like Fling Man Stage from Mega Man 7. I don't really know what the idea was there. It doesn't really fit the theme of the stage, in my opinion. I mean, like, most of the other stages are very detailed in their theming, but this one is a little weird. Oh well, the alternate path is unlocked by going through it with the power adapter, of course. I have no idea why I'm collecting the beat parts, even though I've missed one and I have no intention of going back to get it. I don't even use beat in Mega Man 6, so yeah. We're fighting Nightman now, and I'm actually going to use the power adapter to fight him because this is a really nice thing. The power adapter actually pushes certain obstacles and enemies, and in Nightman's case, it actually bypasses that shield and pushes him around a little bit. That shield would normally block your buster shots unless you use the power adapter or the Yamato Spear, which is his weakness. Yeah, I've been doing the bosses in their weakness order, even though I don't use the weaknesses on them the first time. It's just easier for me that way. I think it actually, like, gets you most of the E-Tanks because you'll have the adapters are available, which are located in the same stages that do not give any beat parts. Anyways, the power adapter was mostly used there to save time because I would have to constantly wait for him to drop the shield by throwing his mace. And speaking of his mace, that's the weapon we get, the Night Crusher. It is a boomerang weapon that you can fire in multiple directions by holding up or down, which is really, really nice. A much nicer weapon than I give it credit for, and unfortunately I don't really use it a lot. except against bosses who are weak against it, like usual. The Buster is still so very good that, aside from Flame Blast, much of the weapons are not that interesting, besides, like, Centaur Flash or something. So now we're in the Mr. X stages, and here's stage 1. And this stage actually has a very nice shortcut if you can pull off a very slick jump. And a very slick maneuver in general. There's going to be a lot of spikes in this level. And coming up on this screen, no, not this screen, probably a couple more screens. That enemy is blocking my way upwards, so I'm going to use Centaur Flash. Probably not a good idea because I should probably be conserving ammo for other stuff that I need. But then again, I could always pick up some weapon energy because I have that nice energy saver that automatically fills up my stuff for me. So this is the shortcut I was talking about. You equip the power adapter, and then you have to make some very specific jumps across these platforms. You are at serious risk of impaling yourself on those spikes, but somehow I got it on the first try. That was very impressive. I have no idea how I managed that. And there's a bunch of weapon energy behind that glass door. Even though it's the start of the level and you're not likely to have used up most of your weapon energy, but hey, 4 whole 1-ups in that block, and you are automatically at the boss. Very, very nice. That shortcut didn't even show up on the map, come to think of it. Alright, so here we have a boss that was very obviously designed with Flame Blast in mind, because when Flame Blast hits the ground, it creates a little pillar that the enemies can run into. And this boss always follows that path displayed on your screen there. So it's very easy to catch it with the Flame Blast by leaving the pillar in its path. Very easy to defeat. Not sure how you would deal with the Buster, but I've always used Flame Blast on that guy, so I don't know. I don't mind using weaknesses on Fortress bosses because you're not going to fight them again anyway, so you might as well use the weakness to make it a little easier. I'm still on the fence about bosses even having weaknesses to begin with because in this game, yet again, the weaknesses really trivialize much of the boss battles. Like, it's not like 5 or X2 where using the weaknesses would make everything harder, bizarrely. But, yeah, using the weaknesses in this game can really trivialize some of the stuff if you know how you're doing it. But I suppose that's alright. They had to create some kind of rock, paper, scissors thing, because this is Rock Man after all, and we need a scissors to beat. Also, you can't slide across those falling blocks. I don't really know what's up with them. They're never used again. And there's no enemies on this screen either. I'm going to complain about this a lot, actually, because there's no enemies on that screen. And on this screen, well, there's enemies on this screen, but there's pits to fall into. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the idea here was. And I'm rambling because I'm out of things to talk about, but moving on. Yeah, this is definitely an example of the jet adapter making things a whole lot easier for you. You can just fly across all of these pits, fly over all the enemies, and there's a thing above, well, I have no idea why those ceilings are there. Would we fall in from some other place? I didn't see any alternate paths. So the second Mr. X boss, who was this again? I'm sure we'll see. Oh yeah, I know who it is. I know because the weakness is the Silver Tomahawk. And what an appropriate boss to be weak to the Silver Tomahawk, because this is basically the only way I can reasonably see to actually fight this guy. I mean, like, if you use the Buster, then you would have to wait for him to get all the way down to the bottom of the screen. I'm not really sure why they designed the boss this way, but hey. Oh yeah, and I'm actually going to have to use an E-Tank here because I want to actually beat this guy. So if I die here, then I would have to, like, be very precise with these shots because I'm finding it very difficult to hit him. And I don't want to fight this guy with no ammo, which is what I have now. So yeah, I have 7 E-Tanks, well 6 now that I used one. So I had 7 E-Tanks going into that stage. That's a lot of E-Tanks to pick up in the first 8 stages, and I know Eddie gave me one of them, but even Mega Man 4 restricted you to only 4 E-Tanks going into the Fortress stages. And that gives you one off to the left for free. Speaking of off to the left for free, you've got a choice of ladders, and if you pick the left one, you can go up and past that guy, and Ta-da! It's a free E-Tank! So using that E-Tank in the previous stage meant absolutely nothing. Because now I've got 7 E-Tanks. I would have had this many if Eddie hadn't given me the E-Tank anyways. Jeez. I have so many E-Tanks that I might as well just damage boost through some of the enemies. Just, like, take the hit, use the invulnerability frames to get by. Yeah. And then we have another obstacle. This is a nice little obstacle. Sitting on one platform will cause the other to go up while the one you're on goes down. It's interesting, but you can bypass this completely with a jet adapter again. Even if you had the Rush jet adapter from Mega Man 5, you'd still be able to bypass this, I think. Oh well. You have to switch off the jet adapter to get rid of these two, though, because they're in your way. I'm not really sure if it's like such a bad thing to have so many areas be trivialized by weapons and adapters and stuff, because you know, you really have to know how to use your weapons and adapters if you want to do that, but like, I don't know. I think the jet adapter is very overpowered, but it's such a fun utility as well, so I don't really complain about it that much when I'm actually playing. I mean, like, I talk about it so much in these videos because I have nothing else to really say. I'm just jetting over everything. And wow, I landed on the perfect pixel to get past that guy without getting hit, but I still got hit anyway, so that's a little embarrassing. Alright, so we're going to use the power adapter to break that block and get the energy capsule, and then we're going to switch back and then jet through the rest of the area, and here's the boss. What is this boss weak against? It is weak to... I believe it's weak to Yamato Spear, but I suppose while I was recording this, I didn't really realize it until I'd started. Yeah, it's a little Meteor in a giant robot, which is kind of awesome, I'd say. You have to shoot at it to get it to go backwards, but it's eventually going to rush all the way up to you and start getting close to you and stuff, so... Oh no, the Yamato Spear isn't the weakness, excuse me. It is actually Blizzard Attack. Well, that makes sense, I suppose. Blizzard Attack is a decent weapon, and at least I'm actually using it. I don't think I use Windstorm at all, except for the Fling Man rematch. So yeah, you can see the Blizzard Attack has a very low ammo count, which is unfortunate. I think it would have been an okay weapon if it weren't for the ammo count. Alright, so moving on to the 4th Mr. X stage. Yeah. Maybe kind of sort of the final stage, if you think about it. No, it's not the final stage, of course not. What do you think? Alright, so in this room, I think I'm going to use Centaur Flash. Yes. Clear away all the enemies and then jet up there to avoid risking myself on the spikes. Good that they give you so many alternatives to risking yourself on spikes at any rate. And in this room, there's going to be yet another one of those free E-Tanks I like to complain about so much. Because, oh yeah, free energy capsules if you just use power adapter on these blocks. And if you break this one and switch to the normal adapter, I guess normal adapter, that's another free E-Tank. I guess if you slide too far, then you have to do some fancy footwork in order to get back up. But anyways, what's also interesting is that these blocks with the X's on them, you can actually push them in order to block the spawn of the enemies if you punch them with power adapter, which is a very neat detail, but largely unnecessary because you can jet past it anything anyways. And oh, that was annoying. That enemy was in just the right place to send me falling back to the previous screen, but I'm going to make use of Centaur Flash to get past them. And, is going up an alternate path? I think it might be, but I've never really gone up there, so I don't really know for sure. More cowboy bots, or cow bots, I guess. The Silver Tomahawk looked like it would be nice for dealing with them, but it so very frequently goes past them entirely that I'd much rather just fire it point blank at them, and that was close. I almost fell off. That would have been embarrassing because that's a really easy enemy to deal with. It looks like going up that ladder would have been an alternate path, but I suppose we'll never know for sure now. And don't push that block with the X if you want to get this free E-Tank. Again, how many E-Tanks do I have? I think I have 9 E-Tanks and 9 extra lives. How is this happening? Man, who knew playing optimally would make the game so easy? 9 E-Tanks and 9 lives. Well, gee. I guess that means I'm allowed to get a little bit more liberal about my E-Tank usage, even though it feels so embarrassing to actually use an E-Tank. Like, wow, what was that lag just now? It took a while for the weapon select menu to actually come up. Anyways, moving on to Mr. X himself, his little, swinging pendulum mech thing is actually weak to the power adapter, and, like with some of the other bosses, you can actually push him with the charged shot, but, it puts you so close to him that it's actually very difficult to hit him and not get hit in return. Like, unless you place it very carefully. I think if you stay on the far left of the screen and do this, then it might be a little bit easier, but I don't know for sure. Anyways, it's time for a plot twist that absolutely nobody saw coming. It turns out that Mr. X was really Dr. Wily in disguise, of course. Why not? Like, who looks at Mr. X and thinks, that guy doesn't look familiar at all. And he has a second castle for some reason, because of course he does. He just had a second castle as a backup. Unfortunately, we do not get the scene with him wiggling his eyebrows, but we do get the exhaust pipe on the right. So, all is well. Just 4 more stages to go, and we've got 20 minutes left of video. So, I'm not much to say about this first Wiley stage, so I'm going to talk about the music in Mega Man 6. It doesn't really have as many great themes as Mega Man 5 and 4 did, because this Wiley Castle stage has always felt like more depressing than it should have been, and some of the boss music is like that too. But there's still some there's still some really good themes in the Robot Master stages, such as Wind Man and, what's another one that I like a whole lot? I think I like Nightman too. So yeah. Oh, and in this particular area of the stage, if anybody knows how to land on that ledge on the right and what is behind that power adapter block, I would love to know, because I have never figured it out myself. I do not know how you're supposed to land there, because the pause trick doesn't work anymore. Anyways, we have some more jet adapter areas. Very tough to get your timing down for getting past the spikes. But with a little practice, you can do it. Still very early in the stage, and you've probably collected a lot of extra lives, just like I have, so it's not that difficult. You'll learn it eventually. And I'm gonna just damage boost past this guy because there's some energy behind him. And we have a single squid enemy that I'm going to flame blast out of my way. And moving on, Sniper Joe, I guess, and the boss. Well, there's interesting stuff to say about this boss. If you equip the power adapter, the idea behind this boss is that it's this big dinosaur robot which shoots out platforms which you can then use to get onto them and fire at his head, which is his weak spot. You would think that if his weak spot is his head, then Dr. Wily would not design a way for you to actually hit it. He would actually just, like, make it impossible to hit the weak spot on his head. But as you just saw, you can actually push the platforms back into him to do damage. But this is highly impractical because they only do 1 damage apiece. So what you should really be using is the Yamato Spear, which does a whole lot more damage, if you can aim it properly, which I'm failing to do so and having to use an E-Tank on this guy. Just like I used an E-Tank on Mr. X. But hey, we've got 7 E-Tanks left. I'm so glad they took out M-Tanks in this game, because can you imagine? Can you just imagine if you had an M-Tank at the end of the game to use? Nuts. Alright, 3 more stages to go. Wiley Stage 2 is up next. What do I don't really remember much about this Wiley stage, to be honest. What is in this stage? Oh, a free E-Tank! That's how we're starting off Wiley 2. Man, oh man. I have 8 E-Tanks! I don't need any more! Why do they keep just giving out these free E-Tanks? They're giving you free resources. Jeez. Oh yeah, and the curling stone enemies are back. And oh yeah, did I mention that the power adapter also pierces through most shields? Pretty awesome. But hey, look who's back! It's the disappearing bricks, and they can also be bypassed with jet adapter. Just make sure to switch back to the normal adapter, because you will need to slide underneath in order to finish off that room. That's the only room with disappearing bricks. I guess they have to do it once a game. I don't really know why. And these are some very basic enemies that we fought earlier on in the stage. I just think... Another free E-Tank! Oh my goodness. Why is this making me go crazy? The difficulty is so low, it's not just the E-Tanks. I guess this enemy was a little bit difficult to get past. These are actually more free E-Tanks than Mega Man 3. I don't know why they're doing this. Why are you doing this? If you were gonna give so many free E-Tanks, why didn't you just limit them to only 4 at a time like in Mega Man 2? Oh yeah, there's a boss or something here. I should probably talk about that instead to calm myself a little bit. It is a generic looking tank that fires at you as it moves forward. You have to fire at the treads in order to push it back, but this can be very difficult to handle. What is his weakness? It's like the Night Crusher or something, I think. But I ended up using the Buster, and, you know, I got so many E-Tanks that... Oh, the weakness is not the Night Crusher? Oh yeah, the weakness is the Yamato Spear. I am eventually going to figure that out, but I had such low Yamato Spear ammo that it was probably a good idea to weaken him a little bit first anyways. Alright, so that's Wiley Stage 2, and you know how Wiley Stage 3 always goes. It's time for the boss rematches, and I don't have any excuse to speed them up this time because I actually finished the entire game in less than an hour naturally, without having to speed anything up, without having to edit anything out. That's probably not a good sign. We're starting off with some water, though, before the boss rematches, and there are some fans here that suck and blow you, which is a neat little trap because you have to be wary of running into the spikes. And finally, we have an E-Tank that you have to actually risk yourself in order to get because you could very easily crash into the spikes. But, you know, at this point, with so many extra lives under my belt, it's probably, like, not such a big deal. This is so early in the stage. What would you be sacrificing by just grabbing that E-Tank and then crashing into the spikes of your own volition? Wow. I'm complaining about the game design a whole lot. Like, I said this game was a really great game to end the NES series on, and I still think that's true, but it's so low difficulty. I don't know what happened. Like, the enemies are placed fairly decently, but they give you so many free resources. I don't know what's going on. Alright, so gotta calm myself down. I'm just gonna use this E-Tank to make sure I go into the boss rematches with full health, because some of them are a little annoying to deal with. Even with the weaknesses, like Plant Man. The plant barrier still blocks your shot, so you still kind of have to like jump over it and then fire at him. This basically goes the same as it would if you were using the Buster. And the annoying thing is that there is only just enough Blizzard attack ammo to actually defeat him using only the Blizzard attack. So I'm gonna run out of ammo here, and I'm going to have to, well actually I'm not going to run out of ammo here, I'm thinking of Plant Barrier. But I have such low ammo at the end of this. And my throat hurts, and I didn't actually need that E-Tank because I could have just defeated Plant Man without getting hit. Okay. My throat hurts. I've been talking too much. Here's Yamato Man. His weakness is the... No, he's immune to Centaur Flash. I did not know he would be immune to Centaur Flash. Weird. He is defeated by the Silver Tomahawk, which, well, this game was made in Japan, so I don't really think this counts as anything potentially controversial. The American weapon defeating the Japanese Robot Master. Yeah. I could have made a whole lot more comments like that, and it would have probably gotten me thrown off of YouTube, so I'm given as much as I can safely give. So Yamato Spear is the weapon that defeats Nightman. That is also probably controversial. It goes right around his shield. That wasn't even a spear because it's not like a javelin or anything. It's just like the spear head. Okay. Centaur Man, what is he weak against? The Night Crusher? Yes, he's weak against the Night Crusher. And he didn't use the Centaur Flash at... Oh, there's his Centaur Flash. He's just proven me wrong as always. But I think that's the only Centaur Flash I got out of him. Very easy to defeat him with the Night Crusher. And here we have Wind Man. His weakness is the Centaur Flash. And I used up some of its ammo, so I don't have enough to defeat him. This is, like the Plant Barrier, a weapon that you have to use up the entire ammo count in order to defeat him with just his weakness. So you're going to have to put in a few buster shots as well, but he is very, very easy. I think this is one of those Mega Man games where the boss rematches are completely unwarranted because they're just like these aren't really difficult bosses, even without the weakness weapons, so yeah. They could have just removed this stage entirely and I would not have minded it. Alright, Plant Barrier defeats Tomahawk Man, and you can see that I do in fact have to, well actually I made a mistake with a weapon, so I have to switch to the Buster anyways. Yeah. That's a sign that your weapon is not that good when it has such little ammo like that. Or at least there's not as much of a return for your investment in the ammo, because Flash Stopper did not have a lot of ammo, but it was a very good weapon to use. Alright, so Flame Man's weakness is the Windstorm. You can see how it works. It travels along the ground, and it would send other enemies into the sky with no drop. So yeah, there we go. The final rematch is against Blizzard Man, and it's probably going to go about as you'd expect. His weakness is the Flame Blast, which we've already gone over several times why it is the most useful weapon in the game. And yeah, what can I say? This is probably going to go very quickly because I don't have to charge up in order to use the weaknesses. As long as he stops using the rolling attack and sticks exclusively to his Blizzard attack, which he did just now, so that's good. And that's the end of Wiley Stage 3. There's no end boss to Wiley 3, which is very weird. But to make up for that, the final boss of the game has 3 forms. So hopefully that'll be something resembling a challenge, right? Right? Yeah. No. Alright, so we first start with a drop. And there's some weapon energy. And there's not much to speak of for the rest of these rooms. It's just a Meteor dispenser that you actually can't hit with Flame Blast because you're too low on the ground, so you have to use Night Crusher. And then, actually I should be conserving my Night Crusher ammo, but Eddie decided to give me either an extra life or an E-Tank. Either way, I didn't need either of those. Do you know how many I have? 9 and 9. He gave me another E-Tank. I would have preferred some weapon energy for Night Crusher because it's the weakness of the final form, but here we have the first 2 forms. Alright, so this first Wiley machine, it just shoots very easily dodged projectiles, and you're moving on a conveyor belt floor, but you still have the ability to slide under him. I don't know what his weakness is, I just use charge shots because they're the easiest to use anyways. I shouldn't have gotten hit there, but I did. And the second verse is exactly the same as the first, except now the projectiles are aimed. There are actually less projectiles for this form than in the previous form. And now the conveyor belt is making it even easier to avoid getting squished. So, I don't know what the idea was here. Fortunately, the third and final form is basically a repeat of the Wiley capsule from Mega Man 5. Which means it's going to be very tedious to deal with if you don't have beat. Or you could use the Night Crusher, which is his weakness. And it's very easy to hit him with because you can shoot upwards by holding up when you fire the Night Crusher. Unfortunately, I ran out of ammo, which means I have to fight the rest of this with just the Buster. Or I could use the Jet Adapter. But I think the Buster would be faster in this case because at least they had the courtesy to make him appear within range of your Buster more often than normal. Those projectiles are a little annoying to avoid, but if you just keep walking, you'll be fine. I said keep walking, not stand still and get hit. And that's Mega Man 6 completed in less than an hour. And finally, the Mad Dr. Wiley has been captured. They actually managed to imprison him this time because apparently he did not have a flying saucer or anything to save him in case he failed. Yes, Dr. Wiley B. I don't know what that word means. But yeah, there's actually a hilarious line in the English version where it says Dr. Wiley now rules over a prison cell, which was actually a pretty fitting, final punch to him, I guess. So that's the end of Mega Man 6. Well, well, well. The end of the NES era of Mega Man, which is a pretty huge milestone. 6 games on the NES. I don't think there are many other video game series that get like 6 games on a single console. And if you count spin-offs, there was actually a Monopoly-themed, a Mega Man-themed Monopoly clone on the NES as well. I guess because Capcom felt like copying Enix's Fortune Street series. So yes, we have a bit of an overly long montage of all of the stage bosses and their themes. I mean, you don't really need to show me how they actually fight, because I fought them 2 times. I know how they move. But the medley of all of the stage themes is pretty interesting, I would say. And we get to see all of their designers. And, yeah. So Mega Man 6, very easy game, but I would say it's polished enough that I would consider it a fine conclusion to the NES era. Of course, there was always going to be more Mega Man games coming on the Super Nintendo, because obviously I've already played through X and X2, but there was also a Mega Man 7. They continued the classic series even though the X series was underway, which I think was a nice way to preserve the sort of feel of the classic games, even though the X series had come out and started doing its own thing. So, really nice way to keep fans of the older games happy as well. And here's Nightman's designer, Danielle Valley? I'm pretty sure that's spelt wrong, but I would have to verify on like the Mega Man Wiki or something. There's an interview with her somewhere on the internet, which is very interesting. Did you know Danielle Valley actually sent like dozens upon dozens of entries before they decided on Nightman? I guess that's one way to ensure you'll get into your local newspaper for winning the Robot Master Design Contest. I'm not jealous, I swear. I mean, like, if it were me back in the day, I would have been designing so many Robot Masters, I think. But, I guess they wouldn't have really fit in with Mega Man. As a character designer, I have a very different approach to character design than this series does. But then again, I do wonder what some of the original sketches for these guys would have looked like. Here's Windman, the other internationally designed Robot Master, designed by A1... as soon as his name comes up, I'll say it. Yes, we know, Windman, you're very windy. He was designed by Michael Leader. How much you want to bet that's misspelled? I mean, seriously. But yeah. You know, I do wonder if the Robot Masters that win those contests get decided based on how easy it would be to do the pixel art for them. Because I can just imagine somebody getting a complicated design and saying, oh no, there's no way we can pixel art this thing, even though it's completely awesome. And here's the rest of the credits, finally. Well, now I have to decide what game I'm going to play next, because who knows what it will be. I think Mega Man 7 and X3 are, like, way beyond my ability to complete them in less than an hour. Yes, I'm still keeping up that arbitrary trend for some reason, but who knows what I'm gonna do next. Oh, there's still more credits. My apologies. Turkey 613. Okay. Turkey 613. Yeah. And Hyper Mickey. Hyper Benji. And all Capcom staff. Thank you, Capcom, for producing a wonderful series for us to play. Now, as long as you can stay that course in 2020, we'll all be very happy. That's Mega Man 6, and to be continued. See you later, everybody!